Tucked away in Central Asia are hundreds of ships lying in the middle of a vast desert. Now, 60 years ago, they sailed across the fourth largest lake in the world, known as the Aral Sea. But today, that lake has all but evaporated. The Aral Sea has now given way to the Aral Desert, and its destruction has been called one of the planet's worst environmental disasters. So, how did the Soviet Union manage to destroy a 300-mile-long sea and turn this into this? Today, the remnants of the sea lay on the border of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, but in 1948, they lay entirely within the borders of the Soviet Union. And that year, the Soviet government under Joseph Stalin announced the Great Plan for the Transformation of Nature, which sought to boost the country's agricultural output and overtake the United States as the largest cotton exporter in the world. The key component of this plan was to convert Central Asia into a lush agricultural powerhouse, and this was to be done by diverting the two major rivers that fed the Aral Sea. However, as early as 1964, Soviet engineers were quietly fearing that the Great Plan would ultimately destroy the Aral Sea. Despite these concerns, no one dared to speak out against the Communist Party's plans. According to one engineer, it was part of the 5-year plans, approved by the Council of Ministers and the Politburo, and nobody on a lower level would dare to say a word contradicting those plans, even if it was the fate of the Aral Sea. That wasn't bad enough. Another engineer remarked 4 years later, "It is obvious to everyone that the evaporation of the Aral Sea is inevitable." So the results were clearly predictable. But as the Soviet government diverted two rivers to feed the USSR's cotton fields, the lake began to vanish. And between 1960 and 70, the Aral Sea shrunk by an average of nearly 8 inches a year. By the 1980s, it was shrinking nearly 3 feet per year. Seaports and fishing towns that once dotted the sea's old coastline are now ghost towns. As the Aral Sea gave way to the Aral Desert, dust storms picked up the old seabed, scattering salt and toxic chemicals from old Soviet bioweapon sites across the plains of Central Asia, which has led to an increase in respiratory illness and cancer. So, what does the destruction for the Aral Sea mean for us today? Well, for starters, it's perhaps the single most shocking example of the law of unintended consequences. The Soviet central planners promised to bring an end to drought by bending nature to the will of the Communist Party. They promised to create an economic powerhouse. Instead, the resulting disaster has outlasted even the Soviet Union itself and continues to wreak havoc on the people of the area to this day. So the demise of this sea is a perfect example of how good intentions do not guarantee good results, especially when, as Thomas Sowell puts it, decisions are being made by people that pay no price for being wrong. Instead, that price is being paid by the people of Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. I'm Nick Freitas from the Y Minutes, and thank you for watching.